Alright guys, before we get started, just to let you know, all these settings in here, they're not really what I use. They're just there. I don't even know what some of these numbers are right now. But basically the whole point of this part is just to go over the individual features and what they do. Now keep in mind, you're never really going to use all of these features, but I'm going to go over it anyways, just in case there's that one time you do need to use it. Okay, so first thing is wall thickness. What is that? This is the setting that adjusts the thickness of the wall for the model that you're currently printing. If you have the number, let's say, set at 1, that will result in 3 walls at 0.35 millimeters each. So basically what it is whatever number you pick, it's going to divide it by the 3 walls, and each wall will be the thickness that you divided it by. Let me show you what I'm talking about exactly. So right here, if you notice, there's technically 3 walls. You got your outer, and then the middle, and then the inside one. These are all the same size, just divided by whatever number you gave it. Okay, so the model on the left has 3 walls, the model on the right has 1. Normally a wall thickness of 2 or 3 times the line width is good enough. So just keep in mind, the higher the number, the more sturdy your model will be, meaning strength-wise, because you have more walls here. Okay, so you won't be able to squeeze them together as much as if you were to able to do that. More flexible, I guess you can say. But on the other side, the lower the number, the less time it takes to print, and the less filament is used to do the print. So if you're printing something that's just going to sit on your desk, then you just go with this. But if you're going to be using it, if you're printing something for your kids or neighbors or friends, then you want it a little bit more durable, and that's where this comes in. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is wall line count. Okay. What this is instead of setting the wall thickness, you can instead set a number of walls. So basically here, as soon as I edit this, let's say if I want to do 2 walls, right? Notice the wall thickness part goes gray. When you set the wall line count, the wall thickness will recalculate itself and will change color to gray, like I said, and you won't be able to modify it unless you hit the undo button, which is right here technically. So you can do it 2 ways. You can enter it here, or you can actually enter the wall line count itself. And if you're not too sure, you can just undo that, and now you'll be able to edit that part right there. Okay. All right. Moving on. Next, we're going to talk about top bottom thickness. This feature allows you to set the top and bottom layer thickness of your print, of course. When you enter a higher number, you're more likely to close any holes or gaps there might be. Also, the thicker the first bottom layer, the more likely it is to stick better to the bed, giving you a good adhesion. Now, if you don't know what your top and bottom thickness should be, there's a very easy way to figure this out. Take your layer height and multiply it with your nozzle diameter. Okay, so what we're going to do is go ahead and find what our layer height is. In this case, I have it at 0.2, and my nozzle size is a 0.4. So if I multiply them together, I'm given a 0.8. Now, of course, this number is wrong. I was just messing around with a few things earlier. So I'm going to change this down to 0.8, and that is what my top and bottom thickness should be. Okay. So if you have 1, you times it by 0.4, giving you 0.4. If you have 2, you times it by 0.8, and so on and so forth. It just depends on how detailed you want this part, and that's what affects this part down here. Okay, so continuing on with that, also just to let you know, you can, if you want, adjust the top thickness and bottom thickness separate. Okay, you don't have to do them together. So if you want, you can just pick this and just eliminate these down here. If you want to do each one, then you're more than welcome to do so. Like I said, you can set the thickness of top and layer bottom separately. Why would you want to do this? Well, maybe because in some models you need a little bit more thickness at the top, or you might need a little bit more thickness at the bottom. To close the holes at the top of your print, you might need a little bit more filament there. So what this is basically going to do is if you pick the top layer, or sorry, top thickness, this is going to cover up most of the holes, and nothing will be visible on that. Okay. So next, moving on, we're going to talk about, where are we? Top and bottom layers. So now we're going to talk about this here, right there, and we're going to talk about that one right there. Okay, so the thickness, you can go ahead and set that in however you want. Instead of setting a height for the top and bottom layers, you can set a number of layers, specific number of layers. There you go. It will automatically calculate the number depending on the layer height set. Okay, for example, number of top layers 12. Okay, you multiply that by 0.1 layer height and it gives you 1.2 for your top layer thickness. Now keep in mind, just like earlier, if you change the top and bottom layers, your top and bottom thickness will turn gray. So for example, if I go in here and I just I don't know, let's just say 1.2, what we just talked about. Notice I can't go back and change this again. Okay, so it's either or, and same thing goes with this. Okay, so if I go in here and change it to the same thing, it's either or. You can't change both of them. But if you know exactly how many layers you want at the top and how many you want at the bottom, then great. You can go with that. That should work. Okay, moving on to top and bottom pattern. This should be very straightforward and easy. Cura allows you to choose from different printing patterns for the top and bottom layers. These are available in these patterns here. Okay. You got lines, concentric, and zigzag. So let me show you what these are. Open this bad boy up one more time. There it is right there. So the model on the left has line patterns, okay, because they go diagonal in one direction, side to side. And then the model on the right uses the concentric pattern, which basically means it goes in circles all the way through and does not stop when it gets here and then starts a new one. It just keeps going and going eventually until it fills up everything, giving you like a solid pattern. Okay, and then zigzag basically is just the other way, and that's it. That's basically the three patterns that you can pick from. Some people prefer one pattern over the other, but that's up to you. But these are the three options that you have. So going back to Cura, I just have zigzag in here, guys. Don't go by any of these numbers I have. I'm just going over a few things with you, okay? So you can just, I'll change it to that if it makes people feel better. Alright, going to the next one, which should be bottom pattern. Oh, I don't have that selected in here. Okay. Let me go and just go here and add that in there really quick. There we go, bottom pattern initial layer. That's what we're going to talk about next. Again, same concept as what's at the top. With this, you can basically change the first layer pattern. Normally people say top and bottom are printed in line or zigzag pattern. To be honest, I don't change this feature a lot. I leave it at whatever pattern I've picked for my whole print. But after researching a little bit, I think I might be using concentric to give me a little bit more nicer finish at the bottom of my prints. From what I understand, concentric gives you like a smoother finish. That's just what from people said. I haven't printed it yet. I'm gonna go ahead and like I said, I don't mess with these, but I'll try it next time, and then I'll let you guys know how that worked out, and then I can go from there. Okay, next one is gonna be outer wall inset. This setting compensates the position of the outer wall. Basically, let's say you choose a smaller line width than the nozzle itself. Example would be, I don't know, you choose a line width of 0.35, where your nozzle size is zero point 0.4. Okay, this leaves little gaps of the difference, which is 0.05 in this case, on both sides of the actual printed line. So this feature takes in account the 0.025 on each side because the original difference was 0.05. So what it does is it splits that and compensates for that on each side of the most of the outer part, and it fills it in. So basically, if the easiest way I can put it is you have a 0.4 nozzle, you pick 0.3 trying to get a finer line out of it, but there's that 0.1 that's the difference. In this case, it's going to take 0.05 on each side and just fill it in. And that just gives you a smoother finish and no gaps or holes or anything like that. So that's what that's for. Next one, outer before inner wall. This setting is basically what it says. It lets you choose if you want to print the outside wall first or the inner wall first. So if you take a look at this, zoom in a little bit. So basically, do you want to print the inside walls first or do you want to print the outside? The outside would be red, the inside is green. Excuse me. When you enable it, so basically like if I went here, did this, it'll do the outside first. If not, it'll do the inside first. Okay, when you enable it, the outer walls are printed first, and as a result, your X and Y dimensions are more accurate or exact. Now there is a downside. The overhang quality is decreased. So if you have a print with lots of overhang, then you might want to think about it and not check this off. Okay. Next, we're gonna go to alternate exterior wall. Okay. This setting adds an extra wall every other layer. This way, the infill gets caught between the walls, giving you a stronger print. When, let's say, for example, set the wall line count to 2 walls and enable alternate extra wall, it will print 2 walls on even numbered layers and 3 walls on odd numbered layers. So what the hell does that really mean? Well, let me go and show you. When I first read that description, and I was like, this is bullshit, I don't really know what this does. But basically, what it's saying is you have your outer wall, which is right here in red, right? So this line right here. And then you have your other wall, which is basically the interior wall. What this thing does is it does alternate extra walls. Okay, so it adds on the first line, so your infill here catches that, but on the second one it skips it, and then does it on the third one, skips it, the fifth one skips it, and then the seventh one and skips, and so on and so forth, giving you a stronger bond right there. If you take a look at this picture, you can see that this should explain what most of what I just said is explained in. Oh, that didn't sound right. But anyways, moving along. you got your outer wall, your inner wall, and these are your alternating exterior walls. Okay, so basically this is your infill, and this is what's going to connect to that, giving you a better, little bit of stronger adhesion on that. Um, so when would you use this? This feature I'm going over is because it's mainly for my technical people, on the mechanical side. Um, this really helps you when you're trying to print moving parts. It gives you just that little bit of extra strength and more durability. That's basically what it is. So instead of like doing a whole extra wall, another wall here, you just print these and your infills connect to that, giving you better strength on that. Okay, so that's basically what it comes down to. I hope that explains a little bit. Moving on to the next one. Okay, wall overlaps. Where is that at? Right here. Okay, now there are times when you pick thin layers, and what that does is when the nozzle goes over that area twice, it tends to over extrude a little bit. Okay, so when you have thin layers, what it does is it goes over it once and goes over it twice, and sometimes it pours out more filament than it should. When you turn on or enable this feature, it will prevent that from happening. Um, so you know what? Let's take a look at one of the images that I also have on here to better explain what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is disabled. Okay, so let's say your nozzle moves in this direction, comes all the way around, and as it comes back here, when it goes over it a second time, see that little black spot right there? That's excess filament that came out. So when you have it enabled, what it does is it goes all the way around, and as it comes back to that same part again, it tends to kind of pull back a little bit and not keep flowing, giving you something like not like this where it's over extruding. Now, me personally, I like to leave it off. I mean, I like the overlap to be on because I think it just bonds better. But if somebody disagrees with that, please leave a comment and let me know why. But the only thing I can think of is maybe it'll give you a smoother finish or better looking finish. But besides that, I can't see why you wouldn't want this on any. You wouldn't want that off. Okay, cool. Moving along. Next one should be fill gaps between walls. Again, this feature does exactly what the title says. It fills in the gaps between the walls. Um, there are times when the printer needs to print areas that are thinner than the nozzle size. Most of the time it happens between outer and inner walls, where you might have a sharp corner or something along that line. So once the printer prints both walls, it goes back and fills in the hole or gap. This also helps you to strengthen your prints. I recommend using it so you can leave that part on everywhere. Okay, so just leave it. I mean, why wouldn't you want the holes and gaps to be filled? I mean, you don't want to see your layers with the gap in the middle, do you? I know I don't. Okay. Um, what's next? Horizontal expansion. All right, let's go on to that. Let me see what I remember on this. But okay, horizontal expansion comes into play when you are, for example, printing, again, moving or mechanical parts. Okay. Um, have you ever printed a model that moves, but sometimes it doesn't move as smoothly as you want? That could be because the PLA or ABS that you're using might have a small flaw in a small section of it that comes through, and that's just the part that prints. Or keep in mind, plastic warps. I mean, you're heating it up, putting it back down. It might not always go down the way you want it. So let's say if you have joints where how do I put this? Let's say hinges, right? Everybody knows what a hinge is. When you open and close a hinge, there's a little bit of gap in between each thing, so it moves a little bit better and it's a little bit looser. Now imagine if you printed that exactly perfect and everything was super tight. You would either snap it or you won't be able to move it as easily as you like, and that's what this feature does. Okay. Excuse me. Sometimes it might print perfect size, or sometimes it might print bigger. Some sections making the model harder to move, like I said. Now, by adjusting this expansion either with a negative or positive, it will increase or decrease the tolerance of the print to help it move better. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me go and show you. If you notice right here, in this one, you added one. In this one, it's a negative one. And on this one, it is, let's take a look, just normal, right here. So these are the things that you can do. It's the same exact model. All you're doing is increasing the horizontal expansion on it. That's it. Nothing more than that. Okay. Moving along, we have Z-seam alignment, which should be second to the last. Okay, perfect. This setting allows you to choose whether each new layer in the Z direction, where it starts, and where the seam of the model will be. By changing the Z seam alignment, you can decrease, I guess, the visibility of the seam. There is 3 options that you can pick from to do this. Now, sometimes people, just FYI, also call this Z scarring. But anyways, here's your 3 options. You got shortest, which basically is defined as the next where the next layer starts at the endpoint of the previous layer. This is the fastest way of printing, but also creates a lot of visible seams. Okay. The next one you have, sorry, wrong one. Okay, the next one you have random, and random basically what it is the when the next layer starts, it starts at the random point of the previous layer, which eliminates the chance of a seam. Print time will increase when you do this because there's more travel time on this one. Okay, so this random is a good feature if you're looking to sand, paint, or cut your models. You can set all the Z scarring or Z seam to one part of the print. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, let's say if you have a, let's take a look at this, then I can show you. If we go to solid here, let's say this was a square. Let's just cut it off right here. So when it prints this part, you can set it to where all the imperfections are set back here. Now, why would you do that? Is because once the print is done, you can take it and you can just sand this part, and your other 3 sides are perfect. And you gotta mess with it. Cuts less time. It gives you less time to work on this to get it to where you want it, instead of if you had all 4 corners where there was imperfections or Z scarring or Z seam. Okay. Moving on to the next one. Ignore small Z gaps. Let me see. I believe I had something on that, but I don't right now. Basically what this is there are small gaps between the layers in the Z direction of a model when you're printing it. But with this, it can be fixed if you use, if you just enable this feature right here. And what it does is make sure that the layers connect or have a good bond by printing infill between the bottom and the top gaps. By default, this feature is enabled in Cura, just to let you know, and I leave it checked off too. Why? Because why wouldn't you want your Z gaps to be filled? So if you're trying to print a small Z feature, something that goes in the Z direction or is tall, you want it to look perfect, and I would probably recommend that you might want to uncheck it or disable it, because your settings are already set to go long ways up. So go this way, okay? But if you really don't care and you just want it to get filled, then go ahead and check it off. I always leave it on. It's not a big deal. So I hope that explained what these features are. Again, guys, I'm not a very technical person. I try to explain this to you in layman's terms. From what I know, I don't know all the official terms of 3D printing yet. I've only been doing this for a little bit, but I hope this helped you with the shell feature. Unfortunately, I'm going to stop here because I don't have time to continue on to infill, but I will get that done in the next video. Material, look forward to that, because that is a very long and lengthy process. This is nothing compared to what's in there. Okay, so again, thanks guys for watching. I appreciate your time. I hope I explained everything to you right. If I didn't, just leave a comment down below and I'll be more than happy to answer it for you, or show you an example of what I've done with video clips or whatever it might be. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like it, give it a like. If you don't really don't care. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos, if you think my videos are helpful. If not, then don't subscribe. It doesn't really matter. But like always, guys, good luck and happy printing.